Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies. Buddy, you looking stylish.
You think?
Yeah. Gun show, Hawaiian gun show.
I don't know how Pop Guns maybe, but I do like the shirt. Sister-in-law gave it to me as a gift. Yeah,
I think I've told you before.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome. I would like to welcome you to TexAgs Live.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
David.
this show is presented by a gem of a human being, David Gardner's Jewelers.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah, he's great. This studio actually wasn't built by Rollo Insurance, but they sure insure it, and they're the home of this studio.
And Jason Rollo's a real good guy too.
He is. Jackson as well. There's some good people over there.
Good Rollos.
This hour.
The go hour?
It is. We're just going, buddy. We're just going.
Yeah.
Presented by the warehouse at CC Creations.
Yeah. CC
Music Factory. Hey, so yesterday seems to be a pretty good day on the diamond. Softball, big win. Baseball, nice win. Like, there we go.
Yeah. Well, they beat Houston Christian.
Yeah.
And the women beat Sam Houston.
Yeah.
So if you had a game against someone with Houston in the name, it was a good day.
It was a good day. It was a good day. So we will be talking about that. Look, I think we're all in the same boat when it comes to baseball. Thank you for winning the midweek game. Let's win a series this weekend.
Yeah. I don't even know who they play this weekend in the series.
Kentucky.
No, it's Kentucky. I don't know what they are this year, but they're usually
they've struggled a bit. I think they're 2-4 in SEC play.
Okay.
So if you remember some of the teams,
2-4 looks pretty good to me.
15-8 overall, 2-4 in SEC play.
Thank you, Nick. See, I actually study college baseball at times. If you look at some of the teams that last year had a great run, Texas A&M, Florida. I believe Florida's also winless in SEC play. Am I right about that, Nick?
That's correct.
And Kentucky. A&M played them, by the way, and played Florida, as we know. And so it's not just Aggie land that's struggling right now.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to maintain. You lose really good players that got you places, and it's hard to replace them.
Yep. It's so it is what it is.
Like Cags, no longer at Florida.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm sure they miss him.
That guy was pretty darn good.
Caglione.
Yeah. Hey, anyway, I'd like to do some football today.
Of course.
Are you okay with football topics? Do you like football?
Every day is a good day to talk about football.
So later on today, we're going to talk to, not TexAgs, but the media is going to get an opportunity to talk to Mike Elko.
Yeah.
Ruben Owens.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bryce Anderson.
Looking forward to talking to those three as spring practice is going on. So a lot of topics in there. So Nick, my rundown, it printed weird. Can you remind me? I believe this is Paul Feinbaum's soundbite. Is that correct, what we highlighted there?
Correct, yeah. He's on with Andy Staples.
And Ari Wasserman. So Paul was on that show.
Okay.
They do a podcast, and they were talking about the Florida Gators. And there's a lot of people high on Florida, okay? And then Paul basically said, I'm going to let the soundbite talk. He goes, I can't guarantee the Florida's going to run through that gauntlet. So here and A&M comes up. So here's Paul Feinbaum yesterday or a couple days ago.
Games 3 through 4 are this. At LSU, at Miami, Texas at home, at Texas A&M. You are either dead coach walking or a national title contender at the end of that.
I mean, by the way, not even a big statement to say he should lose all 4.
Wow. Really?
I mean, okay.
I think I've been drinking a little Kool-Aid locally here, but I was at the LSU and Ole Miss game.
No, that's not right, Paul. They should lose all 4. You mean they should lose to A&M and Miami? I don't know if I would go that far.
No, I'm just saying I'm just saying they. Oh, I really don't think that's a big statement to make.
OB? Should lose? I don't know if that's the word I would use. I would say A&M today would be the favorite in that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the road. I'm a little bit perplexed.
That was on 3, by the way.
Why there's so much love for Florida. I get.
They played really well at the end of the year.
I get DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
I get that. But they were really good at the receiver position last year. I think Eugene Wilson's still around, but some of the other guys, like one of the guys that gave A&M a lot of trouble, his name, he had the Decay, D-I-K-A-E. I don't think he's there anymore. There was another guy, Badger. I don't think he's there anymore. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I thought they had some significant losses at receiver. I thought their offensive line was somewhat suspect. Is it going to be significantly better? Maybe. A lot of losses on defense. I'm not saying that they're going to be bad. I don't think you're going to be a bad team with DJ Lagway at quarterback. But the whole idea that they're going to be this team
juggernaut.
Yeah, that I actually have to pump the brakes on that a little bit.
Am I reading too much into the way Ari responded?
Well, I mean, I think he's actually married to an Aggie.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
But before learning that, has a history of dismissing A&M. He was the guy that said, I'm not going to say the vulgar thing he said, but in 2000 when A&M was upset that they didn't get into the
playoffs 2020.
And he's the guy that said Ohio State would do so. That's a nice way to put it. Yeah. It was more of a sexual thing to A&M.
Huh.
And then, of course, Ohio State lost by the very same margin to Alabama.
That's right.
Despite when Alabama played them, they didn't have Jalen, who's a really fast guy from Houston that played for the receiver, crazy fast. I think he went to the Dolphins. Jalen Waddle. Yeah. They didn't have him or Landon Dickerson. They had gotten hurt since then.
That's right.
And the game wasn't playing in Alabama. So all those things. But look, did A&M not win that game against Florida pretty handily?
On a game where really maybe he knew, but I mean, he did know something was up. I think they told him on the field that day, but I think Coach Elko knew on Thursday he was going to start Marcel Reed. Mm-hmm. But that was again, kind of Marcel thrust into a game where he thought he might play, but he wasn't sure.
It was his very first career start.
Yeah.
So
went on the road when A&M had not won on the road in a couple years,
right?
And played fabulous.
So I'm not saying that this is a slam dunk win for A&M.
No.
I'm saying to just assume that it's a slam dunk win for Florida just doesn't make any sense to me.
Look, can Florida win that game? Absolutely. A&M does not deserve the benefit of the doubt right now because they have been, hovering around 8-4, 7-5 for too long. Okay,
right.
I know there was the 5-7 year, but they've been in that neighborhood for too long. So when you're in that neighborhood, games against Florida can be lost. Absolutely. But Florida also lost a bunch of games. They played very good football at the end of the year.
Yeah, they did. It might have had to do with the caliber of competition. Some of it might have had to do with Lagway playing so well. I'm going to have to go back and look. I wrote something a month or two ago about all the teams on A&M schedule that matter, and what they lost. Now, I have to go back and see what they added. Maybe they've added some tremendous guys that I forgot about. But I do know I do suspect, if my memory serves, they've got significant losses on defense. Heck, one of their guys is here, Cersei.
Look.
And at receiver.
I kind of look at it like this, OB. Do you have LSU schedule? I don't even know it. Do you have it? Pull up LSU schedule. I don't know it.
Start with Clemson.
Right? But let's just say...
This year or last year?
This upcoming year, 25.
Oh, no, sir. I do not have that. Sorry.
Okay, start with Clemson.
Okay. But they're going to play A&M. They're going to play. They play Clemson. There's a lot of teams that they're going to play. I guarantee you, if you go through that schedule, you're not you're saying they could lose that game. They could lose that game. I could see them losing 4 in a row. That happens so the notion of Florida. How many games did they win last year? 8 after the bowl game. Does that sound right?
Was that right? Okay.
The notion that Florida could go through a stretch where they play Miami on the road, Texas, Texas A&M, and one other school. I don't remember.
You said LSU.
LSU. The fact that they could lose all 4 shouldn't be groundbreaking news. Like, yeah, they absolutely could go winless in that stretch.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but I would say this. I think it would be more likely that they would go winless than they would go undefeated.
And I would say if I were to put a pecking order of who they would, I think they'd beat Miami before they beat A&M.
I always take an SEC team against a non-conference team unless it's A&M. But
Carson Beck's been in the news for not football reasons recently. He's their quarterback. I don't think he's an upgrade to Cam Ward.
No, he's not. In fact, I think it's a significant downgrade. I think Carson Beck was a great quarterback when he had great protection, a good running game, and Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey to throw to.
Yeah.
And then when those two guys were hurt, he suddenly became very marginal. And then when they were completely gone and the offensive line wasn't the same, he just was average.
He was average.
And now he'll be average at Miami.
Does it make you appreciate Stetson Bennett a little bit more?
Well, I guess a little bit.
They won a couple national championships with him.
Yeah, but I think it was the same deal.
Yeah.
You had a competent quarterback, maybe a little more than competent, but not a star quarterback by any means, with amazing talent all around him. And by the way, I think they won a lot of that with their defense.
Yeah, they sure did. I want to bring up, this is maybe a little too late to bring up this topic, but I was just having some fun. I want you to think about the Mount Rushmore of villains in college sports, okay? It could be of all time. It could be of right now. It could start with Johnny Manziel. Is Johnny Manziel considered a villain?
No, I mean, some people don't like villain. I wouldn't.
When I say villain, I don't mean like necessarily bad guy, okay? I'm just saying like Nick Saban's kind of a villain.
Okay.
He's a beloved villain, right? But
I would put Mark Emmert.
Mark Emmert, they're definitely there.
People that were bad for college football.
I don't know if bad for college football is just like Nick Saban was great for college football, but I think he became a villain because he won so much and he was kind of stoic. Maybe villain is not the right word, but root against.
Okay.
Like I think there was definitely when you're that good, you have a faction that all they do is root for you, and then everybody's rooting against you. Okay? I think Johnny Manziel is in that conversation of like people loved him and people wanted him to fail.
Well, they loved him in his first year. And then his second year, I think everything that happened in the offseason made them root against him.
Yep.
I think that Lou Holtz. When he was the coach at Notre Dame, because, first of all, he would whine or he'd tell you how great the other team is going to be. Navy, I don't know how we're going to beat Navy. And you're like, they're winless. What are you talking about?
Right.
And then he'd pour mouth all season long. And then at the end of the year, he was like, we should be the national champions. You're like, wait, which is it? You told us how bad you were all year. So I think Lou Holtz definitely would be on that list.
Is Urban Meyer on that list?
Yeah, but I think it's probably more for what happened
after
in pro football.
Yeah.
But he did get in trouble. No, he didn't. He took over a team that was on probation, and he went undefeated, but he couldn't go because of Tressel got him on.
But didn't he get in trouble towards the end of his run at Ohio State? A little bit of trouble? He got ill.
I thought he just got sick. And I know it's funny, he left Florida saying he was burned out, but all of a sudden he was fine to go to Ohio State. I would have to put more thought in. Lou Holtz for sure.
Is Jim Harbaugh or no?
No. I mean, why would anybody be mad at Harbaugh? What did he do? Unless you buy into that he was part of the Spygate thing. And even that, I'm like, people are always trying to spy on teams. Back in the day, way back, it was proven that Oklahoma was spying on Texas.
Yeah.
Larry Lacewell admitted it later. He was in a hotel with, that's been happening since they've been playing football. I'm trying to think of.
Was Reggie Bush?
I don't think so. If you said Reggie Bush, then why wouldn't you say Eric Dickerson?
Yeah.
or anybody that took something. Now, did he take a little bit more? Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to pay for your house. I mean, now it's okay.
Lane Kiffin?
Lane Kiffin is probably there.
He's like the face of it in today's college
Lane
football,
Kiffin,
right?
Lou Holtz, for sure, those two. Lane Kiffin, because not only does he do weird things, say weird things, the whole way he left Tennessee, I think if you like college football, you're looking at that and going, man, that is some dirty stuff.
Brian Kelly?
Why?
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Just throw names. I feel like Brian Kelly's one of those names that people really like or really don't like.
Well, I think but you can say that just about anybody that's had a certain degree of success. What I'm trying to think is, if we're talking about the Mount Rushmore, then it's got to be something that sets them apart, that makes them a greater anti-hero.
Yeah.
Like Brian Kelly, he won at Notre Dame. He's won at LSU. Cincinnati, even what is Grand Valley State before that, or someplace like that. So,
but Lane is definitely the poster boy in today's world.
I think Lane
and
works.
Deion.
I don't know if Deion.
I think if we took a poll, Deion is. Deion's an interesting one because at least with me personally, I don't want to say he's done a 180, but there's certain things he's been doing recently that I like. But there's a lot that I don't like.
Well, part of what puts people off about Deion is that
it's about me, about him.
Is that ESPN and the media overhype everything he does?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go to the bowl game and the whole media and the whole hype is Colorado this, Deion that, Colorado this, Travis Hunter this, you know, and then they proceed to get their asses just mopped up and down the field by, was it BYU?
Yes.
And, you know, so I think but is that on Deion?
No, but I think Deion.
So I think whoever's in charge of ESPN, maybe he should be. Trying to think if there, is.
I think people like the root against Deion. I think they do.
Maybe. I just always looked at him as a curiosity.
Hey, if you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it by calling us up on the Buppy's Catering Hotline, 979-693-1150. Currently, we are sitting in the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. What do they do at the Cool Zone, OB?
All kinds of cool stuff. Because what's cooler than having money, right? Because when you have money, you are cool. Whether you are or not, you become cool. So they're going to help you get that money with investments. And they're going to help you keep some of that money with taxes. Or tax preparation, things like that. And they're going to make sure you have money when you're old and gray like I am through estate planning. And part of that estate planning will take you right back to the investments where you can invest in what?
I think pro sports.
No, you don't have to think about it. You know.
It's investinprosports.com. That's the website you go to. You type it. You'll love it. I think you will. Let's go around the room and say hi to the people. We're a little later than usual.
Because I was rambling.
Nick Savage behind the glass. Are you the biggest villain at TexAgs?
I don't think so.
But
yeah, I would agree with the list y'all came up with. I would have gone with Deion. I don't really think he's a villain, but I feel like there's a good contingent of people that think that.
I think he's portrayed as a villain in some eyes. Yeah, I do.
And then I would go with Lane Kiffin too. That'd be my next pick on that list. And Nick Saban, just because, and Kirby Smart. People love to hate winners, right? So that's kind of where I would go with that. Maybe even Kirby Smart because he can't get his team to stop driving fast everywhere.
But then you could say, let's just take the most successful coaches and put them on there because everybody's going to kind of hate them just because of their success. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful.
But Saban is so good.
So did you hate Bear Bryant too? You hate Newt Rockne?
I wasn't bored.
You ever read a history book?
Never, not once. I think LeBron in some circles is hated for his greatness.
But I think it's less about the greatness. It's more about the flopping. It's more about the constant whining. If he gets a hangnail, he misses a game. He sets a record because he stays on. He sets a record, and then the very next game with his team trying to get into the playoff, he sets out.
Mahomes hated.
Now, Mahomes is hated.
Beloved and hated, right?
Well, he was first hated, like everybody, because of his success. If there's any reason to hate him beyond that now, it's because
Family
he's gotten
members.
to that part. Well, it's family. You can't blame him,
Yeah.
But it's because he's gotten to that part where he's constantly whining for calls. He's trying to draw calls if he doesn't get it. He's gotten to that part like Dan Hurley at Connecticut now, who thinks because of his success he should get preferential treatment, and that puts people off.
See, I think when you have not just success, long-standing success, you become a villain in the eyes of the rest of the people. The Astros became villains for what they did, but the Patriots were villains. Brady and Belichick, in my opinion, were villains because of all their success and some of the controversy that went with it.
But then, like to my previous point, then if that's what makes you the villain to be on the Mount Rushmore, then just take the 4 most successful coaches, teams, or whatever, put them on there, because that everybody's.
I don't think
hate
Bill
him
Walsh was ever a villain. I don't.
I hated his gut.
Well, yeah, you probably hated him. All right, we're so behind. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kaylee Dreyer's there. Kaylee, hello.
Hi, how are y'all?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Speaking of villains.
I'm not a villain.
As if. Sorry.
Yesterday, y'all were talking about the equestrian team, so I have some news on that.
Oh, tell me more, please.
Maddie Gustin of the number 4 ranked Texas A&M equestrian team was named the SEC Reigning Rider of the Month for March. Sorry. She claimed MOP honors against number 1 Auburn with a score of 72. The MOP award was her 3rd of the season and 5th of her career. She is now 9-3-1 on the year.
All right. That actually was good sound effects. I thought I heard it happening.
Yeah, Olin, you're probably blowing out the speaker of every car listening to us right now. So
let's get one more in.
Nay.
We do have some exciting things happening this week for Aggie men's swimming and diving. 13 Aggies are set to represent Texas A&M at the NCAA championship beginning today. And this past week on the women's side, they had their NCAA championship, and 5 Aggies earned All-America accolades in 4 different events.
Awesome stuff.
Just continuing to excel in these other sports, like we talked about yesterday, Olympic sports, and especially the women.
Yeah. Blair Anderson doing a great job there. All right, we'll hit a break. When we come back, I don't know what we got, Obi. I got my rundown here, but it's not printing very good, so I'm like, I guess we're doing this. We got a couple different things to get into. Jim Turner in the news. Our friend
really?
Jim Turner.
Okay.
Yeah, our friend Jim Turner in the news. We'll talk about that on the other side. I'd like to take Jim Turner to go out to eat. I would like to. And just have him talk about 1775
in his Boston accent.
In his Boston accent.
I can't do accents.
But with the same kind of vigor and excitement that he breaks down offensive lines.
Oh, I think he would do that.
How would he do it?
I would like to see him, put some of that barbecue up on the tent. He says, all right, and I went and got this barbecue right here. I went and got this
you see what they did with this
I got
marinade?
this brisket, and I took my knife and fork and I went into that, and then I went to the pork ribs right there. And you got to grab that. You got to pick them up with both hands, take a big bite, and then you go over to the queso mac.
How would he
and
bite
cheese.
it?
A big bite. That's how you would do it. And then I go to the queso mac and cheese, and just break it down the way you should attack eating it.
Did you bark? Is that what you did?
Well, that's because there's such a nice bark on the brisket after they smoke it. Yeah, you got to bark at that bark.
Open every time I think we're going to not go a different direction, we go.
We're out of control.
Yeah, you're out of control. Open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. 979-492-6241, 1775txbbq.com. Presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Rollo Insured. Oh, God. Bless. Welcome to TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour. Presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. OB was singing. Go ahead.
Van Halen.
Big Van Halen guy.
I wasn't a big Van Halen guy, but I was, I respected him.
Yeah. I know that Kaylee Dreyer at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center loves David Lee Roth, Eddie Van Halen, and the other Van Halen, Pablo.
Alex, Eddie can play that guitar, man. He can play the guitar.
Kaylee, some people were chiming in on our text, correct? Or our topic from this morning.
Yes, we have two people who are giving you people or coaches that could be villains.
Okay.
And two of them said Art Briles, and one of them says Chris Sims.
All right.
Art Briles, definitely, because he was the architect. Not the architect, that's not fair. He was the CEO of a program that went very rogue off the field.
Okay.
And if he knew or didn't know, he was still responsible for those young men. That's why he would be one. Who was the other one?
He says Chris Sims. Now, why? I wonder why Chris Sims.
Because he kept on getting in the game, and they knew Major Applewhite should have been.
Yeah,
there.
but is that on the player? Because he was. Look, I covered him, right? And I'm going to tell you, back then, Mac Brown opened practice, and you would go to practice, and you would see Chris Sims throw the ball, and you say, "Of course,
right?
Of course, he's the starting quarterback." And then you go see him play Kansas, and I remember in a windstorm, and he throws the ball on a line like 40 yards across the field, perfect. Of course, he's a starter. And then he'd play a game that matters.
Are you familiar?
Like, what are they doing?
Are you familiar with Jason Howell?
Yeah.
He'll be on Recruiting Country today. Hey, Jason, I know you're listening.
Yeah,
he sent me a couple of names.
He's a bad
mother trucker. Steve Spurrier.
Talk about Jason. Steve Spurrier.
Okay, he has Steve Spurrier on there. T.O.
T.O. Terrell Owens.
Yeah, I don't remember T.O. in college.
I played at Chattanooga, so I wouldn't.
Maybe he's meaning just in general.
In general, okay.
Antonio Brown.
Okay,
I feel like his issues after Burfict or Bursit, whatever his name is, hit him, knocked him out, and he kind of got CTE, or I shouldn't say that out loud, but something happened to him. He's changed.
Yeah, remember he left the Bucks.
And then he says Dion is definitely a villain, Nuño.
Okay.
And it goes back to his days with Prime Prep.
All right.
Raleigh agrees with me. David Deion Sanders should be on Mount Rushmore.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
well, he's already in the Rocky Mountains, so he's close.
I think
I'll agree with the Briles one, even though I don't necessarily agree with everything about Art Briles.
But I think you have a different standard for villain.
Right.
You think of villain in the form of like in a superhero comic, right? The bad guy.
How did you really do something that warrants our disdain other than winning games?
And I do think winning games is winning games, but I think sustained success, maybe a little arrogance that goes with that. Draymond Green, a villain in the NBA?
I don't think he's near the villain that LeBron James is.
But you don't like LeBron.
Well,
right?
A lot of people, again, I gave you the reasons.
Yeah.
Now, Draymond Green probably cost his team an NBA championship one year and gave one to LeBron by acting out like an idiot. NBA, I would put, I would put Nico, what's his name?
I'm on a jet plane leaving?
No, Nico, the guy from the Mavericks.
Oh, Nico Collins.
Yeah, not Collins. It's not Collins. It's Nico.
Pretty sure it's Nico Collins?
That's a Texans player.
Oh, yeah. What am I talking about? You're right. Nico Collins is a Texas wide receiver.
I want to say Henderson, but that's not right.
Nico.
You know, the guy who traded Luka.
Yeah.
That guy'd be, in fact,
Harris.
Harris. In fact, I would I'd put him on the villain profile with a profile right, a profile left, his front picture, and his back of his head. That's all I need, all four of them.
We probably need to hit a break here.
Okay.
But to me, you become a villain when you become the face of a league. You become one. For instance.
Was Wayne Gretzky a villain?
No.
Was he the face of the league?
Yes, he was beloved. I think different time. How about this? I think the Cowboys are villains to a lot of people because they hate America's team. They do. They don't hate America. They hate America's team. My team, Real Madrid, hate it because all we do is win, baby. Okay? Fluff me, baby, right?
Yeah, no, I refuse. But I would say this.
You refuse, thanks. I appreciate that.
I would say this. If you say so that they win all the time, I'll have to take your word for it.
No, we do. More than the Cowboys,
I'll take your word for it. I have to take your word for
more
it.
recent and more often.
I'll have to take your word for it.
Yankees are hated, right? And they haven't won forever.
A lot of times you're hated because you get more attention and more media than you deserve, which is one of the reasons why for years and years and years, the Texas Longhorns were one of the most hated programs in college football because they were always getting hyped up and like Texas is back because they beat a 4-8 Notre Dame team and they ended up finishing about 500 that year.
Angel Reese.
Yeah, I think she is.
And for some people, Caitlin Clark, too.
Why would you hate Caitlin Clark?
I don't know.
Again, that's not what you're hating her because she's good. What they hate is because she doesn't fit a certain demographic. And that's not just me. That you hear that on podcasts and things. Well, she shouldn't. I mean, it's actually been said, well, we shouldn't root for her because she's white. It's been said. What I think people get put off about Angel Reese is, she set a record for offensive rebounds because she missed so many of her own shots. If you're taking you 3 or 4 times to make a shot, it kind of takes away from the idea that you are a great rebounder.
I agree. Let's hit a break here. When we come back, oh, by the way, shout out. Do you guys still say shout out, or do you not talk like that? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Shout out.
Shout out. Same thing. In the rap community, we say shot. I go to the meetings. OB, Consol yesterday, won in the playoffs.
All right.
5-0. Okay.
How many goals did the Nuño boys?
Nuño's didn't score any goal. We're defenders. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're defenders of truth.
Okay. Yeah. You've always been kind of defensive.
Yeah, I'm very defensive. Defensive driving soon. No. And IDoc Mike made the trek to watch the game in full. Sure, it was great to see IDoc Mike. So,
nice.
Congratulations.
Mike there, and you're going to see everything well.
2020 Mike. Yeah,
2020
IDoc Mike. So,
in fact, I need to call up Mike and see if he wants to hit 1775 on Friday.
Look at that. You just did that on the air.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll hit a break here. When we come back, Tom Schuberth, I think in studio. Is he here yet, Nick? Do we know? We don't know. He might be on Zoom. He might be on the phone. He might not even show up. No, he will. He texted me. Bird Dog Time, Aggie owned and operated company creating access to hunting opportunities. If you have never gone hunting and you're like, man, I'd like to do it, but I don't even know how to get started. I don't know where to go. I don't know what I can shoot, yada, yada, yada. Go with the good people at Bird Dog. They'll set up all the logistics for you. It's an awesome experience, and I'm telling you, you will love it. It'll be great. They'll set it all up. It can be, a huge event. It can be kind of a small event with a bunch of buddies. You want some extra help getting it set up with the logistics, like a personal chef, a concert, helicopter, hunting, whatever. They can take care of all of that for you. And if you're a landowner, you want people on your land to hunt, make some money, they got you as well. Like I said, they're an Airbnb for hunting. And also, if you're a landowner, you don't even have to run hunts on your land for them to take care of you, because what they like to do is find you those tax benefits on your land. Some of their clients are making an extra $100 to $500 per acre of land. The website is birddogit.com. Birddogit.com. Check it out. And we're back, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Tom Schuberth in studio for the final time this basketball season. You know he'll be popping in from time to time. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, David.
It's good to see you. I didn't get to chat with you. No, I did get to chat with you. We just didn't get to hang out together because of the whole timing issue.
I know. I was hoping if we won, we were going to go have like a celebratory dinner, maybe Ruth Chris, and it would have been on me.
Oh, well, in that case, they won. Tom, we're going tomorrow.
Okay, let's do it.
Hey, before we get into basketball, I said this earlier in the show. I had an update on Jim Turner. So he was the offensive line coach for the Memphis Showboats, OB.
Okay.
And he was just promoted to interim head coach for the 2025 season because their head coach, and his name escapes me right now, it's a well-known name, I don't remember who it was, stepped down. So,
well, I got to admit that I'm not up on the USFL.
Yep.
So I'm glad for Jim, but I couldn't tell you who the guy he's replacing is. I know that Reggie White started his professional career in the USFL.
I think it was Todd Haley who stepped down.
Okay, for the Memphis Showboats.
Yeah. So, Tom Schuberth, what happened Saturday?
You said it, the same old story, kind of. Just kind of we had a little spurt there where we just weren't making shots, but I think the biggest thing, we didn't turn Michigan over. They had one turnover in the second half. If you'd have told me that, I would have thought we would have lost. We did such a great job in the first half, turned them over 8 times, kind of kept them off balance, and then couldn't get them turned over. And, they were making shots and playing with confidence, and then it was their ball game.
Yeah. OB?
Yeah. It really comes down to being that simple, doesn't it, as far as not making shots. But at the other end, A&M, you said they couldn't get turnovers, but they really couldn't stop Michigan either. Gosh, Michigan was, I think they were, if I'm not mistaken, they shot about 72% at the foul line over the season. But it seems like they weren't missing anything.
Yeah, they always made their timely free throws when they needed them. And I was hoping when we made that comeback, and we could get it to like a one-possession game. The one we talked about, Wade's shot going in and out. Had that had gone down, they're down only up 2, and they have 50-some seconds to go. They've got to come down and make a play.
What did you think about, and I typically steer away from officiating because you can say, well, you're going to complain about the officiating, yeah, but you shot, if you take away Pharrell Payne, you shot less than 30% as a team. But that said, it seemed like to me there were any contact that was going on the Michigan end was being called. And I can remember a time when Zurich Phelps, I think he had a layup, got A&M within 3, and the ensuing inbounds pass, it looked like Anderson Garcia was going to steal it. And the guy came over and there was contact.
Yep.
And Michigan, nothing. I felt like in both games in Denver, Michigan, and I'm talking about the San Diego game too, just benefited greatly from officiating.
It seemed that way. I definitely, in the San Diego game, when I was pulling for San Diego, I thought Michigan got some calls down the stretch. But, Aggies had their opportunities and just didn't capitalize. And it was a great season. It could have been even greater if they play in Thursday night. But, they had some deficiencies that people exploited when they had to. And I think that was the formula every time. And were we able not to go through that little lull? We usually won the game and upset people and beat people we were supposed to. And when we didn't, we lost games we had in control and not necessarily gave them away, but gave away a great opportunity.
From the coach's standpoint now, what do you, as you look at A&M moving forward, where do they have to improve, in your mind, to go from a team that can get into the tournament to a team that can get at least to the second weekend?
Well, the metrics say that if you don't shoot the ball well as a team, you're probably not going to go far in the tournament. I think that's the general consensus on over the course of maybe 20 years in the tournament. You have to shoot it well. I mean, we only shoot the ball 41% from the floor and 30% from the three-point line. Now, again, there's a reason why, because we're such a good offensive rebounding team. We make up for those poor numbers. But I think if the general fan, the general coach, an Aggie supporter would say they need to improve shooting. and not necessarily get better shooters, maybe shot selection or maybe just the right people shooting the ball at the right time. You only need 3 or 4 really good shooters if they're taking the majority of the shots. The other guys can play the role. But I thought we had good shooters throughout the 3-4 years all these guys were here. Wade Taylor's elite, but if you looked at his numbers, and I did because I know what a great shooter he is, he's like 34%, and he only shot 31% from the three-point line, and he's an elite shooter, and those aren't percentages for an elite shooter.
Tom, I almost feel like this could be an exciting time for Buzz Williams. And the reason I say that is I look at this offseason as a potential expansion draft, right? I don't want to say he was stuck with a certain system, but he had the personnel for a certain system, and they stayed with him, so it stayed that system. I'm curious, with a complete reset, reboot, with a cornerstone piece like Pharrell Payne, maybe he goes in a different direction. Maybe not. What do you think?
I think that happens sometimes. I think coaches in their mind have a certain way they want to play, and then they form their team, and the next thing you know, it's a little different, and they're not as good at that area that they thought, and they change the way they play. And I think the great coaches do that. There's many throughout the course of it. I think that happens in football as well. You want to play a certain way, but hey, we don't have the horses to do it. But I could see Coach Williams doing that. He's a clever. He's going to always do what's best for his team to win. So I don't think he's stubborn and saying, I'm going to play this kind of system. I think he adapted. It's got to be a tough system because that's what he builds this program on, which is wonderful. And he does it. I call them old school. I love the old school coaches, and I argue all the time. The old school coaches are still winning. Just look at this Sweet 16 right now. A lot of old guys that are doing it the right way.
All right, we'll hit a break. I want to talk about the games left in the tournament on the other side. Right now, we're talking Rollo Insurance. The difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for. They do the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. They've got 60 offices in the great state of Texas, but their headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station. When you have insurance questions, they are the ones to call because not only will they find you the best rates, they're going to just take care of you. You'll have their personal cell phone numbers. You'll be able to reach out to them in times of crisis and questions. And when your kids are getting to a certain age where they're going to start driving, they're going to be the ones to help you find the exact right vehicle for your insurance situation. The number is 888-44-ROLLO. That is 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. That is 888-44-ROLLO, rolloinsurance.com. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. OB and Tom Schuberth with us. Tom, I'm going to ask you a question that I start off the show with, but for college basketball. Who are the biggest villains in college basketball history?
Oh, wow.
And what do you consider a villain? Because I threw out a couple names. OB, I don't think agreed with, because I think Saban is kind of considered a villain because of his success, but not all success to me is painted in the same brush. So
you just said college basketball, but you mean college football, right?
Well, I said college football for us, but I'm thinking college basketball for you.
Oh, okay. Well, a guy I played for, I think, would be a name to come to fruition, but it's not. He's not a villain. It's Jerry Tarkanian. I think that was.
I loved him.
You know, he's the only guy that ever beat the NCAA.
Yeah.
Well, at that time, you know, I think there's been some coaches and players that have certainly won since then.
How come I didn't say Bobby Knight? I should have said, because we didn't ask college basketball. Bobby Knight's got to be one of them.
Absolutely. I think those guys. I think John Wooden now, I know that's going to sound very controversial. He's probably the most respected college basketball coach to ever coach, but he also was not liked because he was so successful.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think you can throw him in there. Anytime you're really good, you have a lot of enemies, you know, and so I could see him in there. I'm trying to think
of. But if you said villains, and you put Dave Bliss on there, who'd have to be.
Yeah.
How do you put Dave Bliss and John Wooden in the same group? Because Wooden was beloved.
Yeah.
Now, it goes back to a point I was making. I don't think you call someone a villain or an anti-hero or anything just because they're successful. Especially because then you just take the four guys that are most successful and put them on there.
But I think with Saban, for instance, he kind of whined.
Yeah.
And he got rules changed, which kind of made him villainish.
Well, he tried to.
He tried to. Thank you. He kind of made him villainish to fans.
I think he's a bigger villain here because of the stuff like, hey, A&M bought their whole class, than he is outside of here for reasons other than being really good.
Yep.
I got to find reasons that you were a jerk besides winning.
Somebody texted in Jerry Jones as a villain in sports.
Hell yeah.
We got about 40 seconds. Kelly, ask the question. I know we got one at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center.
It says, curious to hear Tom Schuberth's opinion on the game between Auburn and Michigan.
I'm going to go Auburn, but I can certainly see Michigan beating them. I thought Auburn would possibly even get upset prior to playing Michigan, and I certainly thought they would lose if the Aggies get a chance to play them. But they kind of got the bad play out of them. I think they've had some wake-up calls. I'm going to go Auburn because it's the safe pick, but I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan beat them, and I certainly would like to see it, even though Auburn's a part of the SEC.
Great work, sir. Thank you, Tom.
sir. Thank you.
Awesome times this summer, or this year, I should say. OB, thank you, buddy. When we come back on TexAgs Live, John Harris. Maybe I'll ask Johnny the question. We got a lot of stuff to get into. It's TexAgs. I know Nick got mad at me there because I moved. I saw his head. Sorry, I went to the exact spot I'm supposed to be on, Nick, and you had already set it up for the shot that I was initially on. TexAgs Live were presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. As a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That is at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggie Land since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way. We go to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. That's where we find John Harris, footballtakeover.com founder and Houston Texans sideline reporter. Johnny, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. You made me hungry with that Double Dave's offer. I guess I'm left out of it, man. I love me some Double Dave's, and now I'm hungry, David.
Those pepperoni rolls are legit. Johnny, I wasn't planning on asking you this, but I think Obi and I had a topic to start off the show. The biggest villains in college sports or college football was the villain, and we've kind of it's taken some other avenues. And I've brought up a couple guys that I think are winners, and that's why they're villains. Obi has a hard time seeing them as villains. To you, what is a college football villain?
All time?
No, I'm just saying, we can get into that in a minute, but how would you define your criteria? Because I said, I think Nick Saban, in some walks, is considered a college football villain. Not that he's done anything wrong, but because of his success and maybe some of the whining that went around. I think Johnny Manziel, in certain circles, was considered a villain. Maybe not his freshman year, his redshirt freshman year, but afterwards, and maybe a little bit post A&M has become a villain. So to you, what would be your criteria to say someone's a sports villain?
Yeah, I think for me, it's how a particular individual impacts me and my team and my program in some sense. I mean, Mark and I talk about this all the time on All Access here in Houston, Texans all-time villains. And, he brings up Peyton Manning, all the time. And, Peyton's like one of the great guys. Like you never, now you see Peyton Manning and you realize how great he is. But man, he was the biggest villain because every time that you walked into the building and he was on the other side as the quarterback, you're like, God dang it. He might have been the nicest guy and was the greatest guy, but I did not want to see him on the other side. Another one, like for us, is Derrick Henry. Like Derrick Henry just killed us. And it was every time that I had to look across and see 22 on the other side, I would cringe. And so I think people will take, villain in some, respects. I think you got a good one with Saban. I think Saban was a villain for a lot of people because Saban was never, there were no soft edges or corners with Saban at all. It was the system. It was how they did things. It felt at times very robotic. They just, stopped the mud holing guys. It was, Saban on the sideline when they were up 57-3 on Appalachian State Tech out of Albany, and he's getting all over a freshman for, not making an interception to hit him in the hands or something like that. So I think you also have got the villains. I think, there are some that would say just, success. So Kirby is, maybe a villain because he's won so much at Georgia. And then you see some of the things happening with what Georgia's got going off the field. And you're like, oh, yeah, he's definitely a villain. So I think Kirby's probably there. I think all time, I think a lot of people would say Cam Newton. I think Cam was probably, because Cam was so braggadocio about everything that he did. And then that whole controversy of, did he take money? Did his dad take money? He's suspended, but he's not. He just kept smiling through the whole thing. And, he just was Cam Newton. As we've learned to find out, Cam's a pretty confident, arrogant guy, and that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. So I think probably Cam Newton was one. The other, a lot of people have thought, he should have never won a Heisman Trophy. He should have been eligible at the end of the year. Whatever the case might be. So, Cam was just probably ahead of his time, as was Johnny. Johnny was ahead of his time. I think Johnny is a great villain because basically Johnny just looked at authority and basically gave the finger to authority. And there were times when he did that, he then went out and put on a masterpiece. When he faced Saban in 12 and 13, it was just a masterpiece, but I think to a lot of people, Johnny was kind of the same as Cam, kind of a braggadocio, kind of didn't do things the natural, normal way. And then obviously had that incident off the field. Did he get money? Did he not? Did he sign the auto? All that kind of stuff at the time was very controversial. And then, of course, Johnny comes back that first week against Rice, scores a touchdown, gets the money sign, and then everybody across college football is completely pissed off. So I would say Cam, Johnny, those are two really, really good ones. But I think just being successful for a lot of people is enough. Like Kirby Smart to me, take what his players have done off the field and all that. Like I think Kirby's the kind of coach I would have loved for my kid to play for because I know, it might not be absolutely perfect. And I know my son might, but I've talked to enough guys in our building when they talk about Kirby. Like I've talked to Kamari Lassiter about Kirby, and Kamari doesn't say a whole lot, but I just see his eyes get wide, and he's like, basically, that man had bite, but I love playing for him. And I think players over the years have liked playing for him. I think players at times didn't love playing for Saban, and maybe he was a villain in his old building in some respects. I would think those are probably a few that kind of Cam and Johnny are probably the first two that come to mind from a player aspect. I'd probably say Cam and Johnny are probably the two that first come to mind.
I think in today's college football today, Lane Kiffin and Deion are your guys.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, I think Lane for sure. I don't know. I don't know if I look at Deion as being a villain. I guess so. I mean, I think he's polarizing, and I think polarizing and villain can be a little different, but I kind of like Lane Kiffin. He's kind of, in my mind, gone from a villain to he's kind of that old man that just sits on the porch and just kind of tells you, wait, this ain't right, but all right, if this rules, I'll just do it. He just kind of has that way. I don't know. I started to like Lane a little bit more, and I know that probably get me in trouble. I've started to like him a little bit more than I did probably 8-10 years ago. But, Lane also had that moment where, he's coached at Tennessee and then gone, like in a year. He's had those kind of moments, which I think created villain status. But, as he's got a little bit older, I think maybe that's softened a little bit. I don't know. Deion's just an interesting one because he's so polarizing. But there's so many things that I agree with him about the way that he coaches his kids, like the way he wants them to go to class, the way he talks about his grade point average. But then he talks about Shedeur, and he makes all these excuses for Shedeur and his family, and I'm like, So I think he's more polarizing than I see him as a villain, but I could see a lot of people that, don't like the way that Deion has come into the college game. I'm not going out and recruiting. He's just doing it differently.
Yeah.
And I think that ends up creating villain status, but I don't know. I think he's more polarizing than I think of him as a villain.
I'm 100% on board with everything you said about Deion because I find myself on certain topics when I hear him speak to his team, like, I can see my kid playing for him. And then I see some of the other antics and the way he treated his outgoing players, and that I changed my mind. But so I think polarizing is the right word. I want to bring up another topic. Coach Elko last week was asked about spring games and, the fact that I think it was Rule that said that, is an opportunity for other teams to try to poach your players in the portal. And Coach Elko last week said that he's not buying it. The thought of people recruiting off your roster of some of those things, I'm just not buying that stuff. So we'll continue to have a spring game until we make it to the semifinals, and then we'll rediscover what our offseason does look like. I think that is, for a program that is trying to find their way, an awesome response, because we're going to keep going. We're going to keep getting things right. And then we'll, if we need some tinkering after we get to a certain level, we'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what coaching has to be, especially in college. I think that's a little bit of a cop-out, the whole, well, they're going to be watching our spring game and they're going to, pilfer our players. Man, if you don't think that's already happening, then you're a fool, basically. It's already happening. If you don't, I happen to be watching ESPN, and I saw the Georgia spring game came on, and I really like this number 6. I'm going to go recruit him in the portal. Ugh. I think there are bigger issues about the portal, mainly coaches that are, telling kids, hey, I got a bag for you. All you got to do is just get in the portal at the end of the year. And I know it's happening. I've had coaches tell me, I had a head coach tell me straight up, he knew it happened. And it was a top program that was doing it and has made a killing off of it. Not won a championship, but they've won some Big Ten titles as a result. So from that standpoint, there are bigger things to me than whether you play a spring game or not. I just think, I think a spring game is fun. I think it brings out the competitive aspect. I think there's some things that you can do, and obviously the game has changed. You go into spring, in some cases where, you've got guys injured, they're rehabbing stuff. You're not going to see these stars, you're not going to see these guys. But I also think it's an opportunity to just compete and see your guys compete. And my favorite spring game story, I had actually gone to watch, it was a scrimmage. It wasn't a spring game. It was at Florida. This is 1996, so I'm dating myself a little bit. But Steve Spurrier was the head coach. And for the first 4 or 5 years while Spurrier was at Florida, the defense was kind of a joke. And what Spurrier always wanted was a head coach of the defense, and then he'd run the offense and handle all the other stuff as head coach. And he never had that. And then in 1996, he got this young coach. The guy had been at K-State for a while, been in Iowa for a little while, a guy named Bob Stoops. Nobody knew who Stoops was. But he brought in Stoops after his time at Kansas State, and they were scrimmaging. And Stoops' defense is kind of eating the Florida offense alive. And it's the backup offense. And so Stoops and his defense are kind of hooting and hollering or whatever, and Spurrier's stewing. And Spurrier looks over and he sees Danny Werfel, and he just kind of like doing his visor, like he does, and he looks over at Danny and goes, Danny, get in there. And so Danny goes in with the first offense, and they went 80 yards right down the defense's throat and scored a touchdown. And then Spurrier called Danny over, pat him on the head, and sent him back to the sidelines. And I was like, all right, I guess Spurrier made his point. Those are the fun things you get a chance to see in scrimmages, in spring games. And there have been so many good. I mean, at Nebraska, one of the greatest moments of a spring game was when a young boy, Jack Hoffman, was. I can't remember what illness he was dealing with, cancer. But his make-a-wish was to be at the Nebraska spring game and score a touchdown. And they had this great moment on Big Ten Network where they put him in the backfield. He's wearing 22 because Rex Burkhead was his guy. And he all the way down the field, and the offensive defense are following him. And I mean, it's one of the greatest moments you've ever seen. Well, all of a sudden, Matt Rule says, nah, we ain't going to do that. We're just not going to have a spring game because I'm worried about my players being pilfered. Like, come on, man. I think that's just a crock of BS, if I'm being honest. I mean, I think a spring game, a scrimmage, and you're worried about what everybody else is doing, pilfering your players and all that. I mean, I know coaches that are, coach right now that know for a fact they're going to lose players off their roster because they coach at a non-Power 4 conference. They know it. That doesn't stop them from doing a damn spring game. So, I don't know. If you're scared of doing stuff like that because, my players might get, man, coach your ass off and keep them there. Find somebody. If they want the bag, then maybe they aren't for you. Coach the team you got, and make it so those guys don't want to leave. And I know that's hard. If you're coaching at, New Mexico and A&M comes calling, yeah, but you might have to face facts. You're coaching at Nebraska or you're coaching at Texas or A&M? Come on, man. You got every opportunity to keep those kids in your building if you want them. And if they aren't playing for you and those kids aren't happy or they're not getting the bag, then guess what? Move on. Move on. I think Elko's got the right stance. You got to compete. That's me. You got to compete. And that would be a big thing if I were still coaching. You going to show up and compete or you coming for a bag? If you're coming for both, we're the right program for you. If you want just the bag, probably not. If you want to just compete, period, then you're my guy. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of a crock. We're going to bail out of our spring games. Man, stop that nonsense.
Johnny,
I think this will bring us to another cool topic. I like it. I don't know if it'll ever get done, but Coach Mike Gundy says he would suggest a home-and-home spring game to revive the Bedlam series.
I like it.
I like it too.
I love it, actually. I think, and I've thought about that for spring games, because I know there have been times where, a school doesn't have enough guys healthy. They got, just a young squad. I think Florida had this one year. I think others have had it. But I just remember Florida, they were doing like 7-on-7 basically, or 9-on-9. They had like 3 offensive linemen, all other receivers. They just didn't have enough to be able to have a spring game. It was kind of like, well, what are they doing? I would love to see that sort of situation because, yes, you could get a guy injured. Somebody could get hurt. Like, I understand that part of it, and it would make me nervous from that part of it. But you also could end up scheduling like that, a rivalry that doesn't exist anymore, that everybody would want to see. Make some money and give it to charity. Put Bedlam, Boone T. Pickens, all the money for, or allow people to get in free, whatever. But, do something where both schools can kind of come together where there's a little less stress. You can have a good scrimmage. It can be controlled like we do in Texas for high schools. You get 2 scrimmages at the beginning of the year. Why not? And especially a rivalry series like that, bring it back. You don't have to play a full game. Make it a nice little scrimmage. Have a get-together, do a charity event with it. Man, it could be one hell of an event. Think about schools that don't play one another because of conference affiliation changing and all that sort of thing. Oregon State, that's one that I think they played last year. I think they were trying to keep it together. That'd be another one, a rivalry that a lot of people don't talk about. But I know people in Oregon that rivalry is everything. And they're not going to play each other. That'd be a great spring game. So I think there could be a way you could do it. Have the coaches come together like do in the NFL for joint practices, sit down, script it out, and then, play your scrimmage. 50 plays each side. Figure out how you're going to do it, and just have some fun with it. Don't even keep score, but just, let the 2 teams go at it. I love the idea. Sometimes if you listen to Gundy, he's got really good ideas, and then sometimes he's got some of the worst ideas you've ever heard. And this one I think actually is a good one. I think it would make a lot of fun, and I think you could get something out of those spring games. And I say that as having been a coach that went through that. We would have what we called a jamboree down in Florida in high school in the spring, and we'd have 4 teams, and we would play 2 quarters, and we would rotate. Like we'd play the first quarter and third quarter, and then 2 other teams would play the second and the fourth, and we just kind of round robin this thing for 4 quarters. And so you played one team for a quarter, then you played another team for a quarter. It was great. And it really kind of propelled us into the fall. Like, okay, we got a little something here. We might be a little different this year. This could be fun for us. So I think this would be a fantastic thing to kind of juice up the spring and add a little something to it. And for the players themselves to hit a different color jersey, man, it would be absolutely awesome. Awesome.
Johnny, last thing for you. I saw a report on Pro Football Talk that Ryan Tannehill has spoken to the Vikings about coming back another year to maybe help kind of mentor that quarterback room. You think Tannehill's still got a little bit of juice left?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he would be the perfect guy in Minnesota because, A, I think Ryan will understand his role, and B, I think he would relish that role. I see guys, and I've seen guys, throughout the time that I've been in Houston that have been asked to do that for the Texans. Case Keenum being, the number one guy doing that. And Case understood his role. And, in 2023, we signed him. We obviously are going to draft CJ. He is with CJ everywhere he goes. I mean, he was the perfect guy to have around CJ because Case knew he was not a starter. But when you needed Case, like we did in the game against Tennessee in 2023 at Tennessee, he came through big time. And I think that would be what Ryan would be there for. Like, he's the safety net and a great precaution for if J.J. McCarthy doesn't work out or if he gets hurt again. I think Ryan's still got something left in the game. I think he probably, after being out last year, I think he's got perspective. So I think that Minnesota would be a perfect place for him because if something did go wrong with McCarthy, Ryan steps into the situation where he's got two bona fides at receiver. He's got a stud tight end. Offensive line has just gotten a serious upgrade. Brian Flores and the defense are tremendous. So I think Ryan's in a great situation. And even if Ryan's looking at it going, hey, I kind of hope this kid gets hurt so I get a chance to play, I don't know that Ryan thinks like that. I think Ryan would end up being that guy like, hey, I know what my role is. I know JJ is the guy, and I'm here to support him. And if they need me to go on the field, I'll be ready. I think Minnesota and Ryan Tannehill would be perfect. And also because Ryan Tannehill and Kevin O'Connell, those two guys mentoring J.J. McCarthy is going to make McCarthy that much better a player down the road. I would love that for Minnesota down the road. I think our situation is a little different now that Case got hurt last year, so I don't know where his career's taking him. I kind of was hoping he would end up coaching with us, but that's the kind of guy I see Ryan. I think Ryan can still play, just like Case still thought he could play, and when he got the opportunity, he showed he could do it. I think Ryan's got even more game left in him, but I think this is his role now. And as long as he accepts it, look at Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was a damn comeback player of the year in 2023. He was sitting on a damn couch eating boiled peanuts and ended up, with the Browns, lit us up the day after Christmas. That was fun. And so, yeah, he didn't look exceedingly great in the playoff game, but I'll be damned, Joe Flacco got him there. And Ryan Tannehill is a lot younger than Joe Flacco was. So I think this is a perfect thing for Ryan Tannehill to go to Minnesota and make the most of what he's got left.
Johnny, appreciate you, sir. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Love you, bro.
Love you, bro. That's my guy, John Harris, on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with Pat Henry. Talk a little track and field. We're keeping water local. If you care about this community, I know you do. You need to think about what's happening to our water system here. We are facing droughts, rising temperatures, and out-of-state interests are out there in neighborhood communities trying to take our most precious resource away from us, which is our water. That's why I'm asking you to consider supporting Keep Water Local, coalition of your neighbors, local business leaders, and community voices united with one purpose, protecting our water and our future. If you've got kids in this area, you know that water is the lifeblood of everything we do, and especially with the Aggie spirit, sustaining our farms that have operated for generations and making sure that businesses can thrive for decades to come. So let's do this. Let's all as a team go to visit keepwaterlocal.org. That is keepwaterlocal.org. Click Get Involved today, and together we can ensure our water stays where it belongs. It is Keep Water Local. It's always a good Wednesday when Pat Henry joins us here on TexAgs Live, brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store, or your local source for Viore clothing, duck camp apparel in Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. We go to the Buppies Catering Hotline. That's where we're joined by Pat Henry. Coach Henry, how are you, sir?
Yeah, good morning. I'm doing well.
Good. So let's just kind of go through the last. I don't think we've seen each other in a couple of weeks. So you concluded indoor season, 7th place finish for the women and 10th place for the men. Just your thoughts on how it all played out.
Well, I think that before that, our men are the SEC champions. And if you win an SEC championship in this league, that's a pretty significant win. So our men really did a great job, beat Arkansas right here on their own track. So we had a great indoor season. We got to the national meet, and the national meet is no different than the basketball tournament. You miss a three-point shot at the wrong time, you're in trouble. And on the men's side, we ran into each other. Mile relay first legs ran into each other, and we got the best of the running into each other, but they disqualified us along with some others. So it was a tough pill to swallow on the men's side. On the ladies' side, I thought we did a great job. We did everything we could do. We finished 7th in the United States, so I'm pleased with that. On the men's side, like I said, you get one thing go wrong, and you're out of it. So that's what happened to our men's team. We finished 10th. We went in there with aspirations of being able to win that track meet. But it didn't happen. So, like I said, it was not a good finish for us at the national meet, but we were the SEC champions, and that's significant.
Talking to Coach Henry here on TexAgs Live. Let's talk Cameron Dixon. Stood out with an 11:06 on the 100 meter and also helped out the 4x100 team.
Well, we've started our outdoor season. We went down to UTSA a week after the indoor meet. We're back on the road, and so we had a good competition. We didn't compete. A lot of our people that went to the national meet, although Cameron competed, ran 11:06 at 100 meters with a little win, not much, but that's a really, really good run for her. And our ladies 4x1 ran well, ran 43 seconds plus, so that's a really good run. Men, we were in good shape until the last exchange, and then we didn't get the last exchange. But early season, some of that's to be expected. That we can't have that happen later on.
Yeah, that was at the UTSA Invitational, by the way. She was SEC Women's Runner of the Week. So now this transition, right, from indoors to outdoors, just talk a little bit about how that kind of unfolds, if you will.
Yeah, we move right into the season. There is no time for anything but being ready to go. So it's just the way track and field is run. We've had a lot of people that have not had the opportunity to compete yet this year and did get this opportunity this last week. Our discus throwers, our javelin throwers, intermediate hurdles, our 4x1 100-meter relay we just talked about. So we've got a lot of things that are just starting to happen. And then we've got some things that, if like our hurdler, she ran the fastest time. She's the national champion in the short hurdles. Jaya has had a great indoor season, and now we move to the outdoor season, and we look forward to the same kind of things happening for our outside. So, it's the transition is normal for our athletes. It's the way our sport thinks, and it's just a normal thing.
Coach Henry, did anything jump out at you, stand out, if you will, at UTSA?
Yeah, I think that we did some things. We lined up and competed against ourselves probably better than I've seen us do it in a little while. The level of competition wasn't real good, but sometimes in those situations, when the level of competition is not good, you drop to the level of the competition. And if you do that, then you're really not doing the things that you need to be doing. And our group did a good job of trying to compete at a level that they're capable of competing at. Each athlete is a little bit different. If our sport is of many disciplines, and so each athlete has different challenges early in the season than they do late in the season. So it's a balancing act, and we're as a staff, it's what the sport is all about.
Talking to Pat Henry here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So this weekend you're split, right? You've got part of your team going to LSU, and where else are you going? LSU and where else? Raleigh, right?
We are. Yeah, we've got only 10 athletes that were separated from our group. We'll take 60 athletes down to LSU this weekend, and that's the main competition this weekend is the meet at LSU. But we will split, and we do it as a necessity. And I like we've talked about before. It's not something that I like to do as a coach, but it's something that the sport almost demands that we do from time to time. And this is one of those weekends. So the level of competition, though, at LSU is about as good as it gets. With, I don't know if you have that list of schools, but you've got out. I'll go down that list. You got Alabama, Arizona State, Baylor, Indiana, Kansas, Michigan, Mississippi State, Missouri, Ole Miss, USC, Penn State, and LSU. So it's about as good a competition as you'll get this early in the season.
Another opportunity to get better.
It'll be a big challenge. I'm sorry, I was talking over you. Sorry.
All good. I was just going to say, it's just a great challenge for you to get better. But I feel like that's kind of life, not only in the SEC, but life for Texas A&M, because you're always going to these meets where you're taking on the elites.
Yeah, and David, that's the challenge. We could go to a meet that doesn't challenge us, like I was just talking about the UTSA meet. The challenge of doing the absolute best you can do, and then you add great competition. That's another element to the competition that you have to be able to do both of those at the same time, and that sounds easy, and that's extremely difficult. A lot of people could do what they do in a very safe and unchallenging environment. And then there's those others when the environment is really challenging, they have a more difficult time doing what they absolutely are able to do. So it's a rehearsal. It's like we have we don't keep a cumulative record like lots of sports. And baseball's got a cumulative record, and football's got a cumulative. We don't have a cumulative record of team. What we do have is performance that leads to a meet at the end of the year that you've got to be ready to go on that one single day. You have to be ready to do everything that you do at the best, and that's a big challenge. So we've got 6 or 8 rehearsals now before that meet. And that's our challenge moving forward.
Coach Henry, we appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you for having me on.
You got it. Pat Henry on the Buffy's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with Trisha Ford. Talk some Aggie softball. Moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You can find them on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. When you're looking for a vehicle, you start your search there. If you need a truck, that's the place to go. If you need an SUV, that's the place to go. Mid-sized vehicle, a tiny vehicle, all the vehicles. You go to caldwellcountrychevrolet.com to start your search and see the vehicles that they have, and I think you're going to be blown away by their selection, especially on the truck side of things. They've got the flatbed trucks, the medium-duty trucks for those heavier jobs. They have it all there, locally owned and Aggie operated. It's the place to go when you're looking for a vehicle and want great customer service, which includes free oil changes for life on the life of your purchase, and also complimentary pickup and delivery for their service customers. Remember, it's not a far drive. We're talking 15 minutes, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. And we're back, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We're talking a little softball. Kay Nagley in studio. Trisha Ford in studio. Hello.
Hello. Nice to see y'all. Actually, I'm not really. Yeah. I know. But I wish you guys were still with basketball.
I do too. Yeah. I wish so. But I think it's pretty cool. The last time I saw you in person, EJ was in studio hanging out with us, and now you brought your folks.
I did. I brought them. They're here for the week, and so I told them to come along. I conned them with food afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yes, yeah. But it's always nice to have them here.
So things are good, right?
They're not bad.
I know you, right? And what I know of you is, things are good, but we got this and this and this and this to work on. So, but just how are you feeling about things?
Yeah, I think I was really excited about our bats on Sunday against Alabama. I thought they did a tremendous job of putting up a lot of runs, and then obviously we had, Alabama had a really strong 6th inning, and we came back and answered, which I thought was just huge. It was just kind of continuing to roll on and bring that into yesterday's game. We had Monday off, and with Monday off, you're always worried what are we going to look like when we show up on Tuesday? Because usually Tuesday's practice is a little shaky, just because they're a little sore. And I thought they did a tremendous job yesterday, so it was good.
Want to talk more about that Sam Houston game 10-0. Obviously, a lot can be said about the offense, but Emily Levitt, I mean, she's been with your program for a long time. Just what can you say about her?
Just excited for her, happy for her, genuinely happy for her. I think, I let her know on Monday that she was going to get the start. So she came and threw a bullpen on her own just to make sure she felt fresh and good to go, for today or for yesterday, I should say. But she was around the zone. She was hitting her spots. And really for her, when she changes her speeds, right, when her changeup is on, that makes her just a high level pitcher. And for any of those young pitchers out there, if you can throw a changeup, you can compete at a high level.
Your team is very resilient, and so it's 6th in the country in comebacks. What is it about this team that you could be down a little bit, you could be up, and then find yourself in a deficit, and it's go back to work, do what you do?
Yeah, I think that's just how we do it. I mean, that's how we practice. We talk about that a lot. Like, I don't really care if we're up, if we're down. This is our process. Like, you have to, each pitch, each game, each inning, and really when now we're in year 3, you're really starting to see that come together, right? They've heard it now for some of them they're on year 3 of just what that looks like. That's what a championship team looks like, is that you don't get too high and you don't get too low. You know that you're in every pitch and really trying to, just stay as level-headed as you can.
Let me follow that up, because at what point did you did it feel like, all right, this was your team in year 1, but it's everything about your team? Is it usually year 3?
Yeah, it's in that 3 to 5 range. Yeah, just because of recruits, like Coco isn't technically ours. I would choose Coco every day of the week,
right.
Emily Kennedy, like some of those. And so, but you weed those kids that don't fit you very well, so they become yours. Like I would say Coco is mine. Emily Kennedy is mine. Some of those kids, Trinity and Rylan Wiggins, Shaylee Ackerman. I mean, we could go on and on. But so I think they become yours pretty quickly if we're a good fit. And I think I've talked to you guys about this before. You either love me or hate me. It's nothing really in between. So I think,
people hate you. For real? Like, you're so nice.
Maybe opposing coaches.
Yeah. When you beat them, I get it.
Yeah. So, and I think they start to understand what this looks like. And when you talk to the team, they're like, we don't freak out. Like, we know we have a chance.
And something you said about those players, they also chose you, and they chose this program and chose to stay because they saw your vision and what you're going to create here. I want to talk a little bit about Emily Kennedy. She was banged up a little bit this weekend.
Yep.
Just how is she doing, and what did you like from her on Sunday?
Just gritty, you guys. I mean, that kid it was banged up pretty significantly. We didn't know if she was going to be able to throw this weekend, and she took it upon herself to drive down, see a doctor in person, came back, rehabbed for 48 hours. I mean, just a tremendous job on her part. And, she continues to put herself out there to help the team win, even when she's not 100%. She threw 5 fantastic innings against Alabama, who is a very good team. They're, they've been to the World Series 3 of the last 4 times or 4 years. And, obviously wasn't 100%, but knew that she wanted to be out there for her team to compete. And she obviously helped us get a win this weekend. So, just my hat's off to her, just very gritty, things that people don't know behind the scenes. And she's still, kind of working through some of that stuff this week. So we're going to try to hold off with her. If we have to use her tonight, we will, but we're going to try to hold off till Friday.
We had Matt Simon on the show yesterday, and he was talking a little bit about Maya. I want you to talk about Maya because she came in with a lot of accolades, but had to wait her turn and has done such a phenomenal job in doing so.
Yeah, she's just somebody that you don't see very often anymore in today's college athletics, right? The freshmen come in, they expect to play. If they don't play and they're highly touted, they leave, right? And I get it. You know, we've also gone after players like that too. It's a two-way street. But Maya, I think home has a lot to do with it. You recruit the home, right? And so, you know, I'm sure they had a lot of input of like, you go back, you made a promise to Coach Ford and to that coaching staff, and you didn't perform last year. You didn't perform up to your level. And so let's give it a whirl. And she was committed to us at ASU as well. So we had known her for quite some time. And for me, it's just, it's kind of like that moment of like, this is what it looks like. You can always refer back to Maya throughout the recruiting process. You have some tough conversations with freshmen after the year of like, look at what Maya Perez did. She stayed in the system, and year two just tore it up.
Someone who also chose this program because it was also home, Kennedy Powell coming from UCLA. Just she's had 11 multi-hit games this season. I mean, the top of the lineup has just been producing. Just what can you?
Yeah.
Her, Coco. I mean, that top of the lineup is just.
KP has been on fire. She has been probably. I bet you teams hate her right now. You know, she's bunting. She's hitting away. She almost hit a ball out this weekend. I mean, we told her she had to hit the weight room a little bit more, but she's, you know, just, you know, done a great job for us, and somebody that's, I think the one thing that her and Coach Hargrave have talked about as of late, and her just doing a really good job of not so much mechanical, but can you just clean up your strike zone? Can you just really make sure that the ball is coming over this part of the white part of the plate? Because when she was in a struggle, she wasn't really struggling, but in her eyes she was. It really was just cleaning up that decision-making piece, and that's really why I feel like she's been just excellent in the last probably, week and a half, 2 weeks since Auburn, right?
Yeah.
Let's close out with this, and I know we talk about it often, but I think it's just when SEC scheduling, it's so hard. Like you guys got to sweep to start off. That's so hard in this conference. You win 2 or 3 against Alabama. Play or 2, it could feel completely different. You got Georgia coming up in a little bit. You got North Texas tonight, which is not part of the conference, but just to make sure that we set up the whole week. There's no rest.
No. And that's why, you know, you start to see some of these kids get banged up a little bit. It's that emotional toll that can kind of come at you from a physical standpoint. So I think, you know, I'm very happy that we have a staff. We have depth on our team. It's the first year I feel like we have depth, you know. And I just think this is, though, what sets you up. If you can embrace this conference in a way of like, this is helping me set up for postseason and for, you know, and then love the hard stuff. That's how you're going to be successful in life.
Yep.
Like you go full, you know, head first. Like I'm going to straightforward. I'm going after the hard stuff. That's where greatness happens.
Trisha, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Enjoy having your folks here. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with a short open segment. Then Jason Howell at 10 a.m. for Recruiting Country. Your text messages at 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs Live. Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuño here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games there at Olsen wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it. We're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Earlier in the show, Trey and Brian said basketball coaching villains to me: Bruce Pearl, Scott Drew, and back in the day, Tom Penders. Covered Scott Drew for a couple of seasons. He was always very nice to me, but I've heard some stories about the recruiting trail, so I get it. Bruce Pearl, I used to have him on my, again, I'm basing this on having conversations with these folks. I had Bruce Pearl on my show quite a bit when I worked at Yahoo, and he was all right, but I understand why he is considered one. Tom Penders, another guy that I thought was really nice, but he coached at the wrong school for a big part of his career, so couldn't like him then. But I get all those. There is a one from Matt in Houston that I thought was fantastic. He said, for me growing up, and this is more just villains in general, Karl Malone and John Stockton, which means to me, Madden, not only are you from Houston, you must have been a Rockets fan, because I still have nightmares of John Stockton hitting the three in front of Charles Barkley in the 1998 Western Conference Finals. That was a game that had the Rockets, I was about to say the Aggies, the Rockets had won. They would have gone to Salt Lake for a Game 7, and maybe Charles would have had a chance to get that championship. Against the Bulls, maybe not, but it was at least I can dream. So yeah, I get that one. Somebody in the chat said Bud Adams. Absolutely, for a Houston sports fan. Kaylee Dreyer, who's a diehard Texans fan. Do you know who Bud Adams is?
I've heard of him, yes, but I think he was before.
He was definitely before your time.
Yeah.
What year were you born?
2003.
Okay, so 1999. I think it was 99. No, excuse me, 1996. He announced that he was moving the Oilers to Tennessee. He's the reason we have the Texans.
Okay, yes.
And I grew up a diehard Oilers fan. I love the Texans, but like my youth was tied to the Oilers, that Columbia blue, the best uniforms in football history. Anyway, he was very hated in the city of Houston. In Dallas, people were saying, who did I read for Dallas? We got 50 seconds. Thank you, Nick. I don't know. Barry Switzer is the name I think I saw when it came to the Dallas area. Maybe a little bit of the Miami Heat. Maybe a little bit, because what happened in the 06 finals. But then they got revenge in the 2010 finals. All right, we'll do this. Hour number 3, Jason Howell. He's got opinions on the most hated people. We'll talk about those people. We'll go through some recruiting. We'll go through a lot more. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Lucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan, or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Lucci sent you by.
We're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is hour number 3 of the program, so it's time for Recruiting Country, brought to you by American Momentum Bank. They're the only privately owned bank headquartered in Bryan College Station, and they're committed to helping our community prosper, offering you a wide array of personal and business banking solutions specifically designed to help build financial success with confidence and momentum on your side. We go to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We're joined by an active listener and participant of the show, Jason Howell. Mr. Howell, how are you?
I'm great. It's easy to participate when you got a good direct line to the host. So, yeah, I appreciate you taking a little, time to read my responses. That villain topic got me fired up, man.
Well, I'm going to let you kind of reset some of your ideas there because I started it with college football, but I think the show has taken a different kind of turn. It's like going into all of sports. So you can give me a few college football, and then we'll go touch some other ones.
Well, I mentioned T.O. is definitely in the NFL when he was such a polarizing figure there for so many years. But you mentioned Jerry Jones. He definitely came to mind. As far as like college head coaches, though, I got to say, Barry Switzer was one that came to mind, and that talk about a rogue program there that he was running at OU. I mean, they had some pretty crazy times with the buys and all the fun off the field scandal going there. Jimmy Johnson in Miami with the U. I mean, they had some interesting interactions there. I mentioned Steve Spurrier because I just remember when it was his fun and gun against, Peyton Manning and Philip Fulmer at Tennessee, and you had that big headline, and he just knew the exact thing to say that would tick everybody off. Just with you talked about the brashness and the cocky attitude and the just knowing how to talk trash and tweak your opponent or just casual people listening out there to draw that attention. But he was definitely one. And then Deion, I'm on your side. I tend to think of Deion as a villain, especially since he's been on the coaching side of things. When he started that prime prep program in Dallas, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on and off the field about, just recruiting the area, whether or not he did or not, and attracting talent, and as well as just the school being a very rogue organization in itself. I think it was one of the lowest rated schools in the state of Texas at one time. And then, of course, how he's gone on to do his thing on the college level. It's different, and he's created a path. I give him credit for that. He's definitely earned his status as a villain. On the basketball front, NBA, come on, how can you not throw out Charles Barkley? I'm not a role model. Like, that dude was the biggest villain in the NBA.
He's the greatest player of all time. Charles Barkley is my favorite. Charles Barkley and Draymond Green are misunderstood, Jason. I'm telling you right now, those are my guys.
I love them, but they were villains. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Yeah. Charles was a villain, but I don't think he was wrong.
No, he sat there, and now that he's a commentator, everybody loves it. Like,
except the players.
Yeah, but as a player, I remember in the 90s when he was with the 76ers, and man, there were some stories out there on and off the court just about how he handled business, and he didn't mince words. He was ready to get physical when it was time to get physical, and he was definitely, I think there was some overshadowedness there where he was, you had Jordan, you had, so many different players in that era. And so he was kind of down the list of superstars, but he was definitely a superstar. And he was one of those that came with a parental advisory warning, I guess.
Yeah, I would say he was probably one of the 5 best superstars in the league during his time, up until maybe his second year with the Rockets.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had his runs getting the Suns to where he did. I mean, that was some those were some fun teams for sure.
Hey, one last thing on this topic. I also think everybody has their own definition of a villain, right? Like, so it can be a villain towards your team, right? Like, the Madden in Houston who sent in Stockton and Malone. Yeah, they were a villain for the Rockets for many years. Saban was a villain to many teams because he just annihilated people's chances of winning national championships. And there's also mean villains and bad villains and guys that are just clutch villains. So it all kind of depends on how your sports makeup is, in my opinion.
Well, and I agree with John Harris, what he said, how his description of Nick Saban being robotic and like there's no feeling there. It's very rigid and by the book and rules. And but at the same time, there's all kinds of stuff all the advantages that Alabama's got.
Right.
And he, he's not too worried about getting rid of those he's definitely, he had a hard edge and was very cutthroat. But you have to be to get to that kind of level. So you're going to make some people mad when you're that successful.
All right, let's get into some of this news in recruiting country. 2 commits over the last, 4 or 5 days. We'll start things off with the most recent one, Mike Brown, the wide receiver from Legacy.
Yeah, and what a great story. Mike, I think he picked up his offer, maybe been the summer after his freshman year, but he's a guy that has been on A&M radar for a long time. 5'11", 6 foot, 175 pound, and he's got that tie to the university. His father, everybody knows the Reggie Brown story, great linebacker for Texas A&M, and just what they're doing out there at Legacy in spring. I mean, it's a phenomenal deal. But he brings a tremendous skill set. Had just a crazy long list of offers, has been on college radars forever, but a guy that has a really high football IQ and he runs excellent routes. He does a great job in spacing and has a tremendous catch radius. He competes on the track. He brings a lot to the table, and I think importantly, he's an in-state recruit, and there's been a lot of talk about A&M not having traction or enough traction in the state. I know it's been something that's been on the fans' minds, and whether you agree with that or not, getting an in-state commit and one with ties to the university, it definitely helps calm some of those fears. Or some of those worries, and getting two big in-state commits only makes it better.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to keep it with him with Mike Brown, because when I think of what the talk can be, when you've got a legacy player from Legacy, a legacy player that has offers from all these top programs, but he's literally an hour away from campus, grew up going to games. His dad had such a storied history. When you think about that, you can't miss on those types of targets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are important, and they bring so much to the locker room on and off the field. But they definitely have to have the talent, and that's one thing Mike has. So if they have the talent and they have those ties to the university, I mean, that's a guy that's going to stick around your program. He's going to be a culture guy. He knows the stories, and he understands what the importance of the traditions and things like that. It's not that just that he likes them or has seen the game day environment. Definitely brings a lot to the table off the field, in the locker room, and to the fan base in that way.
How do we feel about the commits so far with 3 wide receivers in that room right now?
I think you got to like where A&M's at. You've got Mike, you've got Aaron Gregory, and you got Madden Williams. All three of those guys were on campus this weekend. Aaron is he's a borderline 5-star out of Georgia that everybody is still continuing to recruit, and I know that's something that fans and it's on the minds of everybody out there following recruiting. But A&M, Trooper Taylor, Holman Wiggins have done a phenomenal job with this whole group, not just Aaron Gregory and not just Mike Brown, but this whole group. And I think Holman deserves a lot of credit for this group starting to come together. Madden Williams, I forget what he had. I saw him at the overtime 7-on-7 OT sevens in Dallas this week. I saw one game where he had 3 touchdowns, including the first and the game winner, decisive touchdown. And I want to say he had like 12 or something in 3 or 4 games this weekend. So he was a big physical player. Aaron Gregory is a dynamic playmaker, and then you bring in Mike, and I don't think they're done yet. They have Booby Feaster on campus this weekend, who's planning to come back, who's another one that's extremely elite national talent from at DeSoto, Texas, and A&M is in a dogfight there. But LSU, Texas, Oregon, they're all on him, and it's one of those situations where getting him on campus was a big thing with Booby, and I think you're going to see A&M in the mix for a few more top guys to fill out that receiver room.
How many do you think they can bring on?
I mean, realistically, you maybe a couple more depending on who's who, but and how it all shakes out. But they're in prime position for quite a few guys, top targets. Jace Matthews out of Mississippi was in town. You got Ryan Mosley who's coming to town this weekend. So receiver recruiting is burning pretty hot right now for A&M. And I know Booby was telling me, people are talking about A&M and how there's the narrative that they don't throw the ball and this, that, and the other. But talking to friends on the team and seeing practice for himself, he felt pretty comfortable about the direction the passing game was moving.
Talking to Jason Howell here on TexAgs Live. All right, Jason, about, a year and some change ago, Jonathan Hatton was going to go to Oklahoma. He decommitted, reopened his looks, and here we are. Was it yesterday that he decided, I'm going to go and commit to Texas A&M?
Well, he announced on Saturday.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, it's been busy. So I understand. Yeah. But yeah, big back, 6'1", 215 pounds. This is a every down SEC type back. 10.6, 500 meter, 1,200 yards and 20 touchdowns each of the last 2 years. Comes from a hard-nosed program at Cibolo Steel. And just he's a guy that he brings a dynamic skill set to the table to go along with that size. And this is a guy that Trooper Taylor and Mike Elko sought out from the very beginning and made a priority even before he decommitted from Oklahoma. So there had been some momentum there, and A&M is able to get the recruiting win over Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State, and Tennessee, pretty much the main schools there at the end. It's a top 10 in the state of Texas guy, one of the top backs in the country, and a big win with a guy that has the skill set to come in and make waves early in the SEC.
He's a big kid too, right? I mean, 6'1", 210 pounds, and obviously hitting a Tommy Moffitt weight room is gonna make him even a little bigger, stronger.
Yeah, and he's rocked up, man. He passes the eyeball test in a hurry. So I think fans are really going to love watching him grow and develop. Like I said, he's got the tools to get to campus and really make his presence felt from the beginning.
So let's kind of take a step back. We broke down the wide receiver room, but let's look at this group now.
Mm-hmm.
Considering over the last month there were some losses, but you've picked up a couple names, in-state names, by the way, to kind of put you. I don't know if you're back where you were, but it sure feels that way. It feels like the arrow's pointing back up.
Well, I tried to calm the waters a little bit and say, hey, look, I know you're seeing these results right now, and it's a little concerning, but there's still a lot of positive in-state momentum. But yeah, that running back room, I mean, you got to love what you have in Hatton there to go along with what they've got building on campus. And I know there's still, after another big in-state target, KJ Edwards out of Carthage, Texas. He's another one to keep an eye on. Texas, Baylor, a few other schools in the mix for him, but he brings a kind of a thunder and lightning aspect to Jonathan Hatton's power, downhill, style. You've got KJ, who's on the radar. That's very electric, versatile threat in his own right, and brings another kind of dynamic to the table on the offensive side. But yeah, and in terms of in-state recruiting, I think you have to feel good about what you're seeing in the last two editions. And then this last week you had Booby Feaster, we talked about. He's actually coming back again this weekend. He didn't come with his parents last time. He came with a coach, and this time his parents are coming. I know seeing the academic side has been something very high on their list as well. But getting him on campus 2 weekends in a row, I think that says a lot there with him. You had Drew Evers, Papungatoa Katoa, a couple more DFW guys that on the O-line that were in town, and I know A&M continues to make headway there. Drew Evers, a ton of Texas A&M connections, really had some great things to say about Coach Cushing. I talked to a number of offensive linemen this weekend that they were all wowed by his communication, the way he teaches and is able to efficiently deliver his message, and the way he interacts with his players in meetings definitely made a lot of was definitely a major plus to most of the offensive linemen I talked to. But yeah, they've got a ton of momentum with a lot of guys: Calvin Thomas, Daquivus Beck, Kennedy Brown, Jalen Brewster, and then there's guys that weren't in town: KJ Edward, John Tarntine, Zayden Crippen, who will be in town this weekend, Jamarian Carlton, KJ Ford. There's a lot of in-state guys that A&M is very much in the middle of, and has some really good, strong connections with that can help them fill out the class with a solid group of Texans. So I don't think it's something that was as dire as some may wanted to see. But yeah, this kind of turns that tide a little bit and allows people to see a little bit more of the brighter side.
So last thing on KJ Edwards, we're feeling good about this one because, I mean, you look at the people who are offering them, and even in the last couple of weeks, I've seen Notre Dame jump in and others. So, like, how are we feeling about that recruitment?
Yeah, A&M's very much in the mix there. And I think him and Hatton have both known for a while, like their plan was to take two backs, and that both of them are, priority type prospects for A&M, and the Trooper Taylor don't ever underestimate Trooper Taylor on the recruiting trail. That guy's been doing it. I'm gonna make him sound, he may hate me, but it feels like he's been recruiting guys across the country for about 30 years, and he's been recruiting the state of Texas for most of that time, and a lot of time getting those to out-of-state programs. This time he's able to keep them in the state of Texas, and he has a lot. Texas A&M has a lot to offer, so he's doing a bang-up job already, and he's got A&M right in the thick of it. It was in March at early March at the Under Armour camp in Dallas, where KJ, I'm sure this has changed a little bit, but he was like, yeah, the relationship that I have with A&M is second to none. So he's extremely high on the Aggies, and I expect A&M to be very much in the middle of that recruitment for a long time. And we'll see how it works out.
All right, we'll hit a break here. If you got a question for Jason, you can text it in 979-693-1150. You can do it on the TexAgs chat or the YouTube chat. We'll have Kaylee looking at that. Right now, we're talking Milliken Reserve, a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces, and they've got awesome events like Sunrise Coffee on the 27th, Volunteer at the Farm on the 28th. You've got a 5K and a 10K happening on March 29th. Volunteer at the Farm happening that exact same day. Farm Stand, Gardening 101, Garden Club meetings, Sounds of the Night Hike. So many different cool events that happen at Milliken Reserve. You want to check it out. You can go there and do all these great activities with your family, connect with nature and with each other, but you can also live there. They got an awesome community and great houses, great real estate there at Milliken Reserve. I highly suggest you check it out. If you want to learn more, go to millikenreserve.com. That website again is millikenreserve.com. Recruiting Country is still going on here on TexAgs Live, brought to you by American Momentum Bank. This show is brought to you by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We still have Jason Howell on the Buppies Catering Hotline. All right, Jason, let's talk about some folks that could be visiting this weekend. How's the list looking?
It's coming together. They got some nice little in-state guys in there, and they got some nice out-of-state presence as well. Helaman Kasuga's trying to make it back to campus this weekend. He's in town in Dallas for the OT7s again, and so they're going to swing on down at some point. Ryan Mosley from Carrollton, Georgia. He's scheduled to be in tomorrow and head back up to Dallas for the OT7s there. And then Booby Feaster, we talked about Zayden Crimpin, one of the top offensive linemen in the state. He'll be in town for the weekend. Haven Finney is a big-time cornerback out of California. He's got A&M high on his list, reclassified from 2027. He's planning to be in town this weekend. Trey Taylor from Illinois, a 27 quarterback. A&M's had a few 27 quarterbacks on campus. Trey Taylor's right up there at the top of that list there, and he's expected to be in town with a I think he's got a June commitment date already set, so he's looking at his options. In the 27 class, you also have a couple big-time in-state defenders, Braylon Williams, Arlington Lamar, and Jaquan Snell, that are both planning to be in town over the next few days. So it's there's going to be those are a few guys that we already have down, and I'm sure we're going to get a few more confirmations and get that list out there pretty soon. But those are some of the big guys to keep an eye on as we get ready for the weekend. It should be another. I don't know if it'll be quite as productive as last weekend, but you're going to have some guys that are really looking hard at A&M, and again. These spring practices are a great chance to continue to lay that foundation, and who knows, maybe nudge a few guys across the finish line.
Jason, how are the Aggies doing with Lamar Brown, the 2026 defensive lineman?
He had a phenomenal visit this weekend. A&M, if they're not at the top, they're right there. And I know LSU, I think Florida State and Miami are also very much in the mix there. But he wants to play defensive line, and A&M has been recruiting him as a defensive lineman for a long time. He's got a great relationship with Coach Chaos, Coach Tony Girardetti, and Mason Smith. I know has been fostering that relationship for a little bit as well. So there's a lot of things going on there. He was just in town, and he's planning to be back, I believe, April 4th. For another visit this spring. So A&M, it looks like they're going to have a chance to get continue to keep those positive vibes, that good momentum moving there with him as he kind of looks to figure out his next home. So I have a feeling I like where the Aggies are standing there from a relationship standpoint, and from what you see, watch what he's visited a few times, so he's definitely interested, and he's telling you by those actions.
The Aggies are still in the mix for the 27, Dante Wright. I saw a little bit of your write-up. Just tell us a little bit about Dante Wright.
Yeah, he was able to make his first trip to A&M this weekend. He was with Team TOA from California with a big group that featured Texas A&M commit Caleb Tafua and another 27 safety, Asala Wiley from St. John Bosco, who was a big stud in the 27 class. But Dante Wright, he's already got a 10.8 under his belt this spring on the track, and he runs for one of the fastest relay teams in the country at Long Beach Poly, and another storied program, and the Aggies offered in January, and he's been keeping in touch with Holman Wiggins has been recruiting that area, and I know Jordan Peterson, he really liked what he saw out of Will Lee when he was at practice. So some good positive momentum there with a top-notch 27.
Jason, good stuff, brother. Thanks so much for doing the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Anytime. Always appreciate you.
Thank you, buddy. Jason Howell on TexAgs Live. All right, we'll hit a break. When we come back on TexAgs Live, we really have not talked baseball today. We should. They had a win yesterday. We talked a little bit at the beginning of the show, so we're going to talk some baseball. Kendall Rogers joining us. We'll talk Aggie baseball. We'll talk everything happening in the world of college baseball. That's coming up next on TexAgs Live. It is TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Got a text in from Michael. He says, really love when Jason's on the show. Love to hear his insight when it comes to recruiting country. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. We're going to turn our attention to a little baseball, Aggie baseball, that is. We go to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. That's where we find D1Baseball's Kendall Rogers. Kendall, good morning, buddy.
How's it going? I feel like at some point we'll get on this weekly call and have to have something better to talk about.
Well, Kendall, they won yesterday. We got that. They
There you go.
I mean, look, this season has been very hard, especially to talk about, but the pitching has been phenomenal. Like, am I delusional for saying if they figure out the hitting, and I know they're way deep in the season, but I'm going to say it again. If they figure out the hitting, can this team make a run?
I mean, if they can figure out the hitting, they can. But I mean, that's one of the two most important things about the team. So, I mean, at some point, you kind of are what you are. And if we're sitting here after week 7, I would say if we're sitting here going into week 8, and you're still seeing the same exact type of production on the week and the same number of strikeouts on the weekend, I kind of feel like you are who you are. So I actually feel like this weekend with Kentucky, who's also scuffling a little bit at home, if this offense is a much different look this weekend, particularly with Caden Sorrell potentially back in, then yeah, I mean, I would not put it past the team to make a run. But I mean, as of right now, I mean, the two things that I do like about this team is I do feel like the defense has gotten better. And what's kind of unbelievable, and the reason why I say this is because typically if an offense is not giving its pitching staff support, eventually the pitching will suffer as well. Well, that has not really happened with this team. The fact that Prager's at 2.17 ERA, Patton's at 2.41 ERA, Lincoln's at 2.52 ERA, and this team is losing is kind of unreal. Like, imagine going into the season if we would have said, hey, those are our ERAs of our weekend guys, and you're sitting where you are. Like, you would have thought we were taking crazy pills or something.
Talking to Kendall Rogers here on TexAgs Live. So Caden Sorrell, potentially we could see him this weekend. What do you think one domino like that can do for this offense?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues that A&M has had this year is obviously strikeouts are an issue. But I think the other issue is, hitting is contagious. And, I feel like this is a team that, has gotten a hit or two, but there's not like that next person to kind of keep the assembly line going a little bit. And the thing about a guy like Sorrell, and, I've heard great things about his VPs, he's obviously awesome in the fall. But a guy like, Sorrell is, at the middle of the bottom of the lineup. If there's somebody on base, he is someone who can go into the gap. He is someone who can hit a home run and bring that run home. So I would say just having a premium bat in the lineup is just a huge boost, because it's just, if you're guys in the middle of the lineup, you're like, okay, if I can just find a way to get on base, like this is a guy that can bring me in. To me, it just boosts morale with the entire lineup when a guy like that is in it.
Talking to Kendall Rogers here on TexAgs Live. Kendall, this is going to be, it could be a loaded question, but I don't mean it to be. Do you feel like Coach Early has grown? Because I feel he's finding his voice, not only on interviews, which isn't, that's a part of the job. It's not the job. But I feel like he's finding his voice with the team. Have you seen improvement from Coach Early?
Yeah, I mean, so they're making adjustments where they need to make adjustments at this point. I felt like early in the season they were kind of sticking with guys maybe a little too long. I do think that I like the fact that he's trying to find some sort of formula that'll work. For instance, last night Sawyer Fargas out to left field. I remember when I saw that, I was kind of like doing a double take. But, he actually looked pretty comfortable out there. He made a really good defensive play. So the buttons he's pushing to try different things, I do like. And I would actually say this. I mean, again, I don't want to act like the guy's a 18-year-old, but I mean, the fact is, I mean, if you go back and listen to Mike's interviews with you guys, because I listen to him every week. I mean, if you go back and listen to his interview with you guys after Houston compared to now, to me, it sounds like a guy with a lot more answers and a lot more confidence in kind of what he's seeing and believing in this team. And so I do notice a difference. The question will be for him and frankly for this team is, his adjustments, the team's offensive adjustments. Have they come or will they come soon enough for this team to make enough of a run to make the NCAA tournament? Because as we all know, I was just talking to somebody about this over the weekend in Austin. Like, if you're an opposing team that is going to host a regional, that rotation and that core group is like the last team you want to see in your regional. So this team just needs to find their way in somehow.
Talking to Kendall Rogers, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. So you kind of touched on it, but Kentucky this weekend. If things go well, okay, let's say they win the series, then what? Does it say anything because Kentucky has struggled themselves?
No, I think it's all. Honestly, this week is all about A&M. Obviously, if Kentucky goes out there and walks 18 guys, it's about Kentucky. But I think this weekend's about how does A&M look offensively, winning this series? Do they strike out 45 times but win the series 3-2, 4-3, and 6-2? Obviously, if you go 3-0, you're totally happy with that. But you're still not seeing a different offense. So I think if A&M goes in the weekend, hits well with runners in scoring position, cuts down some of the strikeouts. I do think Mike made a good point the other day that hey, it's fine to strike out every once in a while, but you're going to have some sort of production to make up for that. So if those kind of things happen this weekend, along with the series win, I start believing okay, maybe this team can turn a corner. If they win this series but the same issues persist offensively, I will be pretty concerned about these guys going into Tennessee next weekend.
All right, so if that were to happen, then what? Right? And I'm not talking about job security here. I'm just talking about what happens to a clubhouse.
Yeah, if they struggle, if they lose a series this weekend.
Yeah, with on top of all these other series that they've lost, and just SEC mounting pressure.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If they lose that series this weekend, and I probably would classify it as a must-win. If they lose that series in Kentucky, you still got to go to Tennessee. You still got to go to Arkansas. You got LSU. Still got to go to Texas. Oh, and by the way, Georgia just scored 4 touchdowns against Florida on the road at Gainesville. You got to go to Athens the final weekend of the regular season. So this is kind of the weekend. If they're going to turn things around, it's going to have to be this weekend. If they lose this series, I don't see how in the world they're getting the 13 wins in the conference. I really don't.
What has happened to Florida and Kentucky this year, at least this early part of the year?
Yeah, I think the big thing with UK, if you look at their club so far this season, they're not quite as offensive. I think a lot of that is, they lost some key cogs. I think the other part of that is, they lost, their hitting guru and Nick Amorati, who, surprisingly enough, is now at Georgia, who's not going to cover off the ball. Those have been losses for them. The fact is, Kentucky's margin for error has always been very small because they tend to kind of go after the mid-level transfer guys. Last year, they struck gold with Trey Poozer, as their Friday guy. This year, they haven't struck gold quite as much from a transfer standpoint. I will say this about Kentucky, though. They will be a challenge for A&M in the sense that they will do things a little differently. They'll do a fall down play trying to steal a base. They'll double steal. They'll bunt in situations where you would never expect it. So we just talked a minute ago about how A&M's defense has improved. We'll probably find out for sure this weekend how much it's improved because Kentucky will try, especially Kentucky needs wins too. They're going to try a lot of different and kind of crazy ways to score runs, and we'll see if A&M's ready for it.
Let's in Florida, Kendall?
Yeah, well, that's a weird one. Florida and Virginia. You know what? A&M fans aren't happy, and rightfully so. But there are programs like Florida and Virginia in the same boat. Virginia preseason number 2. They're in a really bad spot right now. They just lost their 5th straight game over the weekend. But Florida, Nuño, the big thing for them is they don't have Liam Peterson, the Friday guy. He was out against Georgia. But, that doesn't excuse the fact the rest of their pitching staff got absolutely shelled over the weekend. So injuries playing a role there. But, last night, you talk about a nightmarish 9th inning. Last night against Florida State, Florida had a 4-3 lead. They start out with a walk, hit by the pitch, infield single, and a grand slam. So imagine that happening against Texas for A&M to end the game. So they're just going through it, man. But, this is the SEC, and even if you're going through it, there is not a team on your schedule that is going to feel sorry for you. If anything, they would like to put you in your grave once and for all.
We had some dramatic games yesterday in college baseball. How about Missouri State, highest-ranked win ever, taking down number 2 Arkansas? That was in extras, right?
Arkansas does not like seeing Missouri State. It just feels like any kind of weirdness always happens in Fayetteville with Missouri State involved. So, Joey Hawkins, their first-year coach, has done a really nice job, up there with the Bears. Keith Gutton was a longtime coach there, took them to Omaha back in the early 2000s. But, that was a really nice win for them. And so, it's just one of those things where, midweek, especially now, is these mid-majors, and smartly so, they have figured out that, we may not start our Friday guy, but what we're going to do, we're going to close out with our Friday guy. You can kind of look back last week with UTSA against Texas. I think UTSA might have even done it against A&M. But, they brought their Friday guy out of the bullpen to close that thing out. So mid-majors are getting very smart about these midweek games, and it's showing in some of the results.
And then Alabama walked off North Alabama 4-3. That was is that just one of those midweek games? You got a guy on the mound that you don't necessarily, you're just trying to develop, and it was a closer game than expected. What happened there?
Yeah, they had to come back to win that thing. I'll say this just to make this A&M related is Alabama. That's the second time I believe they walked off a midweek game. I think Case Snell hit a bomb. I think even maybe last week to win a midweek game they were losing. So they just found ways to win midweek games. But to make this A&M related, I actually really like Alabama's club. I think they're very good. And to give you an idea of how quick things can turn. That's a series that A&M could have very easily won 2 out of 3 in. So that gives you an idea how close things probably are than they may seem.
Tell me a little bit about Coastal Carolina getting through Clemson yesterday, 8-2.
Yeah, they had a tough series loss over the weekend against Troy. A ranked matchup actually between two 20-25 teams. They won the series opener in that series 11-3, then blew the Saturday game and then lost the Sunday game. So, they were kind of reeling a little bit coming out of that. But boy, they came out with a vengeance against Clemson. I think they scored, I want to say 6, 7, 8 runs in the first four innings, I believe. So, that's a really good team. Kevin Schnall, first-year coach, has done a really nice job there. Caden Bodine, their catcher, is one of the best players in college baseball, an All-American. And they've got enough arms. So, again, there are probably, 7, 8 mid-majors out there right now that I feel like could actually make a pretty big dent in the postseason picture, CCU included.
Kendall, great stuff, buddy. Appreciate your time.
You got it, man. See you soon.
See ya. Kendall Rogers on the Buppies Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. Final segment up ahead. It's TexAgs Live. We're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to play a game. Guess what David's going to do tonight? Nick, guess what David's going to do tonight?
Are you entering a jiu-jitsu tournament?
No. Kaylee, what is David going to do tonight?
Go to sleep early.
No. I'm going to give you guys all one more chance. Nick, one more time.
Well, your boys, they don't play back-to-back soccer games, do they? No,
Nope.
so...
No. You make it sound like I'm very boring. All
so
I
you're
do
going
is...
to the softball game?
No, I would like to, actually. But no, I'm not doing that either.
Okay, I give up.
Dryer, one last chance.
I was going to say watch the softball game.
Huh. Does the name Theo Vaughn mean anything to you guys?
Oh my God.
Nick, do you know who Theo Vaughn
He's
is?
not... Is he here tonight?
I believe it's tonight.
Oh. Well,
I believe it's
yeah,
tonight
I
at
hope
Reed
it's
Arena.
tonight and you show up and he's
God, I
there.
better double check that. I'm just making stuff up in my head. Theo Vaughn.
I thought that was in April.
I think it's tonight, buddy. Wifey texted the other day. She's like, do you want to go to Theo Vaughn? I was like, do you want our marriage to work? And she got the Theo Vaughn ticket. So I'm going to go there. It says 7:30 start, March 26th. Today's the 26th.
You're going to be cranky tomorrow.
Well, last night I didn't get home till like 10:30. Am I cranky today?
Yeah, no, you're in a good mood today.
Yeah, I don't know. Just asked these ladies a minute ago. I was like, I'm ready to be done. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to Theo Vaughn tonight. I think Theo is great, so I'm looking forward to watching him at Reed Arena. I don't know if anybody's opening for him. I don't know who else is going. I don't know if our tickets are in the nosebleeds. Doesn't matter. I'm going to enjoy it. I'll be out to at least 10:22. At least.
Nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Anywho, later on today, in fact, like in 35 minutes, I'm going to be across the street. We're going to have press conferences. Bryce Anderson, Ruben Owens, Michael Elko. Those guys are going to be talking about Aggie spring ball and obviously getting closer to, I just want to see what, I wasn't here last week with them when they got together with the media, and I just want to know what a couple practices in, how it feels, how things are going. I really want to see how Ruben Owens feels because I don't know how much work he's allowed to do at this point, but it's interesting with baseball not going as planned, basketball ending at least a week earlier than we had planned. You got softball, thank you. You got track and field, thank you. You got women's tennis and men's tennis and men and women's golf. So there are some things going on. But like football, we need you to be really good, guys. I'm going to ask again, please be really good. In fact, I may even ask Coach Elko that today at the press conference. That's going to do it for TexAgs Live on a Wednesday. Tomorrow on the show, Stephen McGee, Aaron Torres, and somebody else. It's TexAgs Live. We'll see you then.